On today's episode, I want to welcome Natalie to the show, Your Neighbor series episode 2. It's nice to have you on, Natalie. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me on. I'm so excited.
Awesome. So you are in the East Coast now, correct?
Yes.
So how much different is that from being born in Hawaii, being raised in Hawaii, to living in the East Coast now?
So different.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up in Hawaii, these are literally the comparisons I can make. I grew up eating spam musubis, poke, like pretty much everything from Hawaii, but because I'm ethnically Armenian, ethnically Lebanese Armenian specifically, my parents I grew up eating also shawarma, hummus, these types of things as well.
Yeah.
And so like food wise, here in the East Coast, you have no shortage of getting like your craving from Hawaii. If you want a spam musubi, you can go get it. If you want boba tea, you can go get it. If you want shawarma, you can go get it. Like there's no shortage of food places, which is amazing. But the pace of life is like the most different thing. Hawaii is very lax, slow pace. It's not uncommon to see shops close, like, hey, surf's up, I'm gonna close temporarily, and it's very normal. But here it's the complete opposite. Time is money. Every minute counts, every second counts.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just go, and there's pretty much not really a stop until this pandemic hit. But that's been something. I can't say it's an adjustment because I'm very much that go lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but that there is that difference. The cultural difference, like people in Hawaii are very welcoming, very aloha spirit, family oriented. Here it's kind of a mix. I mean, you have like the ethnic groups, like the predominant Italian and Hispanic and all that, and they're family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
But most people have this individualistic mindset compared to Hawaii, where it's very much your neighbor is your family as well. And the random person you call aunt your whole life, but then you grew up and found out, oh, that's not really my blood aunt, but I just called her my aunt. So there's that component as well.
Oh yeah. And so this is like New Jersey and New York, they're kind of like the same, or are they different in their like lifestyles?
Yeah, so where I'm at in New Jersey, it's part of the New York metropolitan area, which
Mm-hmm.
It's weird because the way that they are in New Jersey in this part, and it's very much like New York, Manhattan, hustle bustle and all that. But when you go out into different parts of New Jersey, further out into New Jersey, it's completely different. They have the Jersey Shore, which is very not what you see.
Not what you would think.
Not that Jersey Shore. It's completely different.
You don't got like Guidos walking around with spray tans and everything.
Yeah, that impression. Yeah, that's definitely not what I noticed with the Jersey Shore. But it like as you go out from Central Jersey, which is part of the New York metropolitan area, it's very much lax compared to this part, which is closer to New York. The closer to the Hudson River you are, the more New York the lifestyle is, where you eat bacon, egg, and cheese and lots of bagels, and you have these corner store bodegas that you frequent and all that. But as you go out, it's more suburb and beach homes and all that.
I see. And what do you do now that you're living in New Jersey, right?
Yes, yeah. So I live in New Jersey, but I work in New York. And I work in a law firm as a legal assistant.
Okay, and what does that do?
So I posted this on my Insta story the other day, but basically you're a lawyer's babysitter. So you basically assist lawyers in any of their day-to-day tasks, which can include opening their matters up, running conflicts checks every month when they have billings to the clients. You do the client billing. As you advance in your role as a legal assistant, you get more into substantive legal work, which is what I'm finally dipping into. I'm so happy about it. So we do depositions for clients, or not clients, depositions for witnesses in a trial, preparation for a trial, document production, which is the most intense thing, and you literally have papers sprawled all over your apartment, but that's okay. And yeah, you just assist the attorneys in any of their matters, basically.
And what makes you want to do this?
So I did political science and economics in university. And I knew I wanted to get into the legal field for a while now. You can argue that my mom has said I've been wanting to do it since I was 9 years old. I don't quite remember what I wanted to do at 9 years old.
I don't know if a lot of people know they wanted to do it at 9 years old.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to get into the legal field, but I just didn't quite know in what capacity. And after I did my internship on Capitol Hill in DC, I realized that politics is not necessary, legislation is not necessarily the route that I wanted to go, but I still loved law, not the process of creating law, which is what Congress does, obviously.
Yeah.
But I knew that I wanted to do something related into the legal field, and the part that I'm tethering between right now is, should I study for the LSAT and go to law school, or become a paralegal, which is like a pseudo lawyer, or do that for a bit and then go to law school. That's kind of where I'm at in my career decisions, but
yeah,
I have definitely enjoyed my career path right now, which is a legal assistant.
So what about it makes you enjoy it? Like what value do you get out of it? Like when you how do I say, when you're doing it, what's fulfilling you?
You know, this is the cliche answer, but I love helping people.
Yeah.
And I feel like in some form or another, I'm helping people, which is, maybe it's the lawyers, the attorneys that I assist, and we have like, the thing is, at the place I work, we have like this kind of big generation gap. And so I'm obviously in my 20s, and a lot of the attorneys I assist are 50s, 60s, and that age. And so it's like, I'm their daughter and they're my parent, and they call me up and they're like, I can't click this, I can't do this. And I'm just like, okay, you do this, this, and this. And it's the same relationship I have with my parents, where I help them with technology. So whether it's like helping the attorneys in that small capacity, or kind of where I've been going recently, which is more substantive legal work, where I'm actually helping clients, like I can see that through the work I'm doing, which is right now mainly document production for the client, I'm helping them in a sense prepare. Like, it's very anxiety ridden when you're in a like lawsuit of some sort, whether you're the one that pursued the lawsuit or you're the receiving end. So either way, when I see that I've helped them in some form by organizing their documents and helping them line up how the attorney is going to prepare them for trial, or speaking to them before they get deposed, or anything of that nature, however I can help them, I feel fulfilled with that.
I see. So, before we got on, or right when we got on, actually, we were talking about how you went on some traveling and did a lot of like worldly experience. Can you talk about that? Where did that start with exactly?
So growing up, I have always been made fun of for the way I look phenotypically,
Hmm.
because in Hawaii specifically, there's not many Armenians. And so whenever I said, I'm Armenian, but my parents are from Lebanon, and trying to explain that history, people were always like, where's Armenia? Where's Lebanon? And I'd be like, well, it's next to this. And then when there was some sort of news going on, I'd be like, okay, you can connect it to that news, and it's geographically here. And I'd try to explain it, but I could never really fully explain it.
Yeah.
And I always felt stripped or cheated of my culture. Like I never had like that Armenian friend that I could rely on, or that person that I can speak my first language with, which is Armenian. I always felt like I didn't have that growing up. I always like I had it at home. I spoke Armenian at home. We don't really speak English.
Hmm.
And I didn't learn English until preschool. But then when I was at school, I never fit in. I looked different. People would say, why is your hair curly? Why is your nose? Why do you have a bump on your nose? Why do you have so much hair on your eyebrows? And like these types of questions would be very common for me to receive. And I never knew how to explain it, because I never, like I'd be like, I'm Armenian. And then people are like, what is that? So
Sounds a
that,
little like jealousy, like people want full eyebrows and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah.
that's definitely a plus, I'd say.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it all stemmed. It's like me feeling like I'm missing something in my life, and I didn't quite know what, because I didn't know how to explain anything to anyone. And then I knew that, like, when I knew cliche, when I grow up, I'm gonna go to these countries. Like I visited them every summer, not Armenia, specifically Lebanon, which is where my parents are from.
Mm-hmm.
We would visit every summer. We'd stay there like pretty much the whole summer. Like since school was out and until right before school began, we were in Lebanon. So a lot of my childhood memories were in Lebanon, basically. And so I knew that at some time in my life, I wanted to go and live there. I just didn't know how. And so in university, and my final year, my senior year, I was like, you know what, this is the time. This is the time where I'm gonna just pull the trigger, and I'm gonna do what I've been wanting to do, which is live in my ancestral lands. And so I started it off specifically in Armenia, which is not where my parents are from, but because I'm ethnically Armenian, that's a complicated loop. The Armenian genocide displaced a lot of Armenians to around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so my family ended up in Lebanon after the Armenian genocide in 1915. And so that's kind of a quick history lesson on that. But my grandparents and my great-grandparents are from Armenia. Mm-hmm. And so I knew I wanted to start my journey there. And I did it through Birthright Armenia, which is similar to Birthright Israel, which is it gives every Armenian around the world the opportunity to live and work in their homeland. And so that's what I did. I worked in a consulting firm in the second largest city in Armenia, which is Gyumri. Mm-hmm. And I did that for about 3 months, from May to August.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then that was such an incredible experience, because growing up, like I said, I learned Armenian first, and then I don't know if it's really sunny or not. Sorry.
Don't worry, you're fine.
Yeah, and so growing up, I spoke Armenian at home. And so when I finally landed in the airport in Armenia, which was the very first time I'd been to Armenia, my ears were filled with Armenian, and I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, my interactions are in Armenian, and this is insane because I'm talking to the custom agent in Armenian.
Mhm.
When I finally got settled and everything, and I had to do my daily life, like I would talk to the grocery store clerk in Armenian. I would talk to the hair salonist person in Armenian. I'd get my eyebrows or my nails or anything that I needed to get done in Armenian, in my mother tongue. And it was absolutely mind-boggling for me because I never did my interactions in any other language except for English.
Yeah.
You know? And so to finally be able to do it in my mother tongue was just like my life highlight, basically. It's a whole nother experience to do your interactions in another language.
It sounds like a special feeling for sure.
Yeah.
Can you
Definitely.
explain what life in Armenia is like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in Armenia, even though I'm Armenian, I can't say I felt at home there, which was very strange because, like I said, like speaking my language and all that was amazing, but the life is so different. Their priorities are not the same as Americans.
What do you mean by that?
They don't live the easiest life, and it's kind of hard to explain for Armenia, but I can better explain it in Lebanon. In Lebanon specifically, which is where I went after my 3 months in Armenia. Their priorities are the water, the electricity, their food. There was a trash crisis at one point where it was just a river of trash on the street. Infrastructure, the currency, the money, like in Lebanon specifically, I can talk about the struggles in Lebanon like at a insane level because I lived there for a year after my 3 months in Armenia. But Lebanon is the most beautiful country in the world. Like I can't from the people to the food to the culture to the landscape, everything in Lebanon is just beautiful. And the saddest thing about Lebanon is they don't have 24-hour electricity. They don't have water. They don't have the basic life necessities. So when I stepped foot in Lebanon, after my 3 months in Armenia, I went to my family home in Lebanon, and I was greeted with a pleasant surprise of not having electricity and a language barrier, because in Lebanon they speak Arabic, and I don't speak Arabic. So contrary to me doing my interactions in Armenian, I could not do a single transaction in Arabic. I could not say, hello, my name is Natalie. I would like a coffee. I had no idea. I had zero Lebanese Arabic experience. And so it was a really tough situation when I went in to our family home and we didn't have electricity. And I was like, I don't even know who to call. I don't know who to reach out to. I don't have a clue what to do, you know?
So you get there. What is the first thing that you do then?
So I got there and I found extremely old candles around the house. And I was like, well, I have to light the place. And so the best way I can do that is through these candles. And they were extremely old. This was my grandparents' house. And so I just picked them up and I lit them. I couldn't even find a match. So I found like this really old one that was crusted. And I was like, so long as it lights up, I'm going to figure this out. I did the thing and I did it a few times, and then eventually it made enough friction. It lit up and I was like, okay, perfect. So I one by one, lit up the lights, the candles, and I put them around the house where I was gonna frequent. So like the bathroom, the living room, and my bedroom.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, this is a great start to my first night in Lebanon. I'll figure out the electricity thing tomorrow when it's bright.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was.
And did you figure out the electricity thing, or?
Yeah, so we have like a couple family members in Lebanon.
Yeah.
My uncle and my mom's sister are still there. So, and we're in Lebanon, like your neighbors are pretty much your family too.
Mhm.
So our upstairs neighbors in my grandparents' home are really close, and they have kids around my age. So I was like, okay, I need to go. So in Lebanon, they have two types of electricity. They have the one through the government, and then the one through the company that's rebelling the government. The government only provides about a few hours electricity a day. And so if you want 24-hour electricity, you have to go to the rebelling group and get electricity from them. And so I told my family, I was like, I need to get the other electricity to have 24 hours of electricity. So we went to that other company, got the electricity, set it all up, and I was good to go.
Wow, I'm like mind blown. That's insane. I feel like hearing that, I take all this around me for granted. You know, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's similar to Armenia or different in that struggle?
So Armenia actually has electricity.
Mhm.
They don't have a full water heating system. So they don't have water issues per se, but it's not as frequent as America would be or any other country. So when you want to take a hot shower, you need to heat it up 30 minutes in advance. You need to heat up the hot water tank 30 minutes in advance in order to take a hot shower.
Mhm.
And you have to like, okay, I'm going to take about a 15-20 minute shower or whatever, and you have to kind of gauge how much you have to heat up the hot water.
Mhm.
It's not extreme in Armenia. You don't really feel it after a bit, but it's still a thing. In Lebanon, it's more of a struggle because you have to tie the hot water and the heating system to the times of the two government and rebelling party electric hours. So you can't heat up your water tank when it's the rebelling party, when it's the other electricity, and that's not from the government. You have to heat it up while it's the government's electricity. And it's timed, so that makes life slightly easier. So you know, like, oh, okay, at 12, it's gonna do the switch from the government electricity to the other one. And yeah, you kind of plan your day based on that.
That's an experience that I don't think anybody knows. Anybody listening to this, no way they can relate to that, because I know that I can. That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
That's the amount of work that goes into just having electricity, and the fact that you gotta plan your day around that because the government has a rebelling party against it, and there's all these issues going on. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's like the most basic things you do in life get complicated. Like I remember the first time I plugged in my hair iron and the entire circuit blew out, and I was like, what did I do? So I went to my upstairs neighbor and I was like, I think I blew the circuit. I don't know what I did exactly. Like, how do I handle this? And they're like, oh, you got to go downstairs to the back and then turn on the switch. And I was like, okay, that sounds easy. So I went downstairs, went to the back, turned on the switch. Well, actually, first I was greeted with a million switches. And I was looking at all of them, and I was
what
like,
switch?
Yeah, all of them were down. So that was helpful because I blew out the whole thing by plugging in my hair iron, which is the most simple tool in America. People curl their hair and straighten their hair and blow dry their hair all the time. But yeah, like you just plug it in and blow the circuit because something to do with the watts, and you have to put a converter, and I had the converter actually, but it wasn't enough apparently, because apparently my hair iron was too strong, so my converter didn't even work. But yeah, all of the switches were down, so I was like, okay, that's easy, I'll just turn it all back up. And and then I learned that that's a frequent thing. So anytime you blow out the circuit by plugging in too many things, let's say you plugged in your phone and your laptop and, I don't know, the vacuum, one of it is gonna make it overloaded, and then it's gonna blow it out. So you just gotta go downstairs and then turn it back on and continue your life.
I think anybody who's listening to this would appreciate whatever they have right now, whatever they do for the rest of today, because that's definitely something that we do not have to worry about.
Yeah, I think, as odd as this is, I had the most culture shock in Lebanon, which is a country I frequented every summer. But I did not know how to do my most basic things. Like, I could not do my hair. I could not, like, I was beyond lost. And it was so frustrating at times. I remember one situation where I had no water, and this one was like, it was worse than my first night where I had to just light candles, and I had no electricity. I had no water for about 2 or 3 weeks in the apartment, and I didn't know how to get a plumber, and I was worried if I got a plumber, they were gonna be, what's the proper word? A pervert, I guess. I don't know. I was worried about that because I don't, like, I'm a girl by myself in an apartment, and then all of a sudden a man comes in from, another country, and they hear my American accent, and they're like, what in the world is this girl doing by herself, American? Lots of like spiraling things. So I was like, I don't know how to get a plumber who can speak English, who won't like
be a bad person.
Yeah, be a bad person, exactly. So I was like, okay, it's okay, we'll figure that out. I eventually got a plumber after 3 weeks of not having water. And the way you have to shower in those situations, which is a common thing in Lebanon, is you get a pot and you heat up water on the stove, and then you let that hot water cool down, and then you basically sparingly dump it on your body while lathering your loofah and your hair and all that, and then just keep dumping water from the pot. And so, yeah, that was one of the most frustrating moments of my entire thing, because I had no clue how to get a plumber.
Yeah.
I had no clue how to find the right plumber. I don't even, to be honest, I don't even know how to do that in America. Like, right now, I don't know who I would contact for a plumber. So to do it in a foreign country, in a foreign language, and with scares, I had no idea. I dragged in our building, we have like, it's not the security, but he's like the building manager sort of person who doesn't speak English. He's actually Indian. And I was like, hi, can you come and stay in the house with me? And he doesn't speak English. He learned Arabic even though he's Indian. And he was like, what are you saying? And I was like, I don't know how to tell you to stay in my house with me when the plumber's here. So I just dragged him upstairs to my apartment, and I said, stay here. Like, plumber, he's in the attic fixing the hot water tank. Just stay here. And he just stood there. And I felt safe. I was like, okay, I have a plumber whose butt is hanging out from my attic. And then the Indian man who doesn't know English, who's our building manager, he's keeping guard, so I'm good.
Wow. I'm like, sorry, I'm so speechless hearing all this. It's so foreign and different, and just wow. So can you tell me a little bit more about Lebanon? Like, what are some of the things that you would do for fun, or the I guess entertainment that you'd have over there? what life would be like for someone walking around the place, you know?
Yeah, so Lebanon has 18 different religious groups, and it can be, despite its geographic location in the Middle East and what the automatic assumption is where everyone is Muslim, it's not like that. They have the various types of Muslims, so the Shiites and the Sunnis, they have the Druze, they have Christians, they have Catholic Maronite, they have about 18 different sects.
Yeah.
And so as like powerless as you feel in the moments where you have no water and no electricity, it's one of the most free Middle Eastern countries. So nightlife is an extremely common and most favored thing. So the party pretty much doesn't start until midnight there, which is not how I go by anything. I'm pretty much in bed at 10 p.m., maybe 9, depending. So I didn't really partake in that. But they have so many, I love that the businesses in Lebanon are always small. So it's always family owned, small businesses, and eventually some of them grow up and become large franchises, but they still keep their like humbled values and that small, tight-knit feeling. So food was like my number one escape, and little coffee shops were my number one, basically.
Yeah.
Even though I could not order anything in my first few months there, I had no ability to speak Arabic and order food and do my transactions. Eventually I learned, so I took language classes and my day-to-day transactions, and going through those tough situations where I had no ability to do anything, I was finally able to get to a point where I was conversational in Arabic. So I could place my order confidently. I want a chicken shawarma sandwich. I want a coffee. I was able to do all that.
Nice.
I learned how to pay. I learned how to pick up like some words within context and put them together and figure things out. But yeah, in Lebanon, there's no shortage of something to do, whether you gather with a group of friends and just go on a day trip, drive up to the mountains. The mountains are the most beautiful place. Like, I always get swept away when I'm up in the mountains in Lebanon and overlooking the city. It's the most beautiful thing. The food is amazing. The fruits and the vegetables are so fresh. The coffee is just my favorite thing. And yeah, the crazy thing was I wasn't supposed to stay in Lebanon. So when I originally planned everything out before graduating, I had gotten into a master's program in what's known as the Ivy League of the Middle East, which is American University of Beirut. And so when I got in the master's program there, I was very excited. And over the summer, when I was in Armenia, I started the boot camp and the courses before that. And I was like, this master's program is not for me. It was a business analytics program. And I was like, I don't want this, like, I need to figure out something else. Like, if I can switch over to law, or if I can switch over to something else within another master's program in that university, that would be amazing. But unfortunately, despite it being American University of Beirut, the requirements for certain programs was fluent in Arabic. So I couldn't do what I wanted to do, unfortunately. And so I had to drop the master's program and not continue. And so when I originally got there, I saw everything hit the fan. I had no electricity, no water, couldn't figure anything out. My master's program fell through. I was on the verge of getting frustrated with myself because I was so set that this was what I wanted to do and this was going to happen, and I forced it to happen and all is good. And it didn't turn out the way I planned. And I'm a huge planner. So when I don't get something working in the way that I planned, I get frustrated.
So what did you do to pivot?
I booked my ticket back to Hawaii.
Uh-huh.
And it was October 10. I was supposed to come back. And my mom was very happy. My parents were like, yay, our daughter's coming home. Like, they didn't see it as a failure at all. I saw it as the biggest failure because I was like, I got into the Ivy League of the Middle East. I got into this great master's program. I was about to get my master's. Everything was going to be good to go. All things were rolling in the way that I wanted. And did not happen. So, but anyway, my parents were very happy. They're like, our daughter's coming home, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a huge fail. Like, I was so hard on myself. I was like, this is a huge fail. But I accepted it. I was like, it's okay. Now might not be the time. What was the 360 that ended up happening was I met someone while there. And he's Lebanese Armenian. And when I met him, I was beyond confused. I was like, I'm not gonna cancel going back all the way to the other side of the world just for a guy. Like, that's not me. I'm gonna go, you know?
Yeah.
So when I met him, I told him, the very first thing I told him, I was like, I'm leaving in about, I don't know, I think it was like 2 weeks at that point, or 3 weeks. I'm leaving about 2 or 3 weeks from now. So if you don't want to continue talking, I totally understand, but I want to be upfront with you about it because I don't know, you know? And so he was like, okay, like, where are you from? And I lied. I said, I'm from California. I was like, I was very shy because this is the thing, in Lebanon, when you say you're from Hawaii, no one hears that. They think Hawaii vacation. And there's like a joke in Lebanon where if you want to send someone off like really far and you don't want to talk to them anymore, you send them off to Hawaii. And it's
really?
Like, yeah.
What?
It's like a joke. Yeah, it's like a joke that no one like expects to actually be something, like someone actually from Hawaii. They don't expect it. So they just send them off to Hawaii because it's far enough, you know?
Yeah. But as far as you can go.
Yeah. And so they're just like, yeah, just go to Hawaii. Like, they just push people away. And so there was this whole thing on that. So I told him, I'm from California, you know? And he was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So you're going to go back to California about 2-3 weeks. And I was like, yeah. So I don't know if you want to talk anymore or continue this, or, you know, I don't know where you stand. Is basically what I said. But I just want to be upfront. And he was like, you know, let's see where this goes, because you still have 2-3 weeks here. Let's continue seeing each other. Let's see where this goes. And I was like, okay, great. But I'm very hesitant because I'm a pretty reserved person. So I'm like, I'm in a foreign country with a foreign person and I don't know what's happening, and I'm frazzled completely with life, and I'm about to go back, and just the whole slew of emotions that I can't really explain. But there was one pivotal moment that like flipped the switch with me, that like kind of eased things in a way. So I was at a friend's house in downtown Lebanon, and my home from downtown Lebanon is about 20 or 30 minutes away. And so my cousin was supposed to finish up with whoever she was with, like her friend group, and she was supposed to pick me up and take me home. And we had agreed on this because she was in the downtown Lebanon area as well with her friends, and I was with my friends, and all was good. And so I texted her and I was like, "Hey, are you almost done?" And she's like, "Nah, I think I'm gonna be a while, like till 2, 3 in the morning." And like I said, the nightlife in Lebanon is very common, so the party starts pretty much at that time. And I'm like looking at the time, I'm like, it's 9 o'clock. I'm supposed to be in bed. Like I gotta go to bed. It's 9 o'clock. I don't want to be here no more. Like I'm tired, and I'm not gonna sleep at my friend's house because I don't do that. Like in Lebanese Armenian culture, we don't really sleep at one another's homes, so it's not a common thing. So I was like, I gotta go home, you know. And so like I had no idea what I was gonna do, and I looked up an Uber or a taxi, and it was like $50 to get from downtown Lebanon to where my home is. I don't know if I'm able to spend $50. Like I'm running on my savings account that I built up from 16 years old to, how old was I? 22 at that time. So from 16 to 22, I built up savings, and that's what I was running on in Lebanon. And so I was like, I'm not gonna put out $50 for an Uber. Like, what do I do? Who do I call? What do I do? I can't call my uncle or my aunt because their daughter just abandoned me, even though we had an agreement that she was gonna take me home.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there confused, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna risk it and test something at the same time. And so I texted the guy. I was like, emergency. And he was like, it's 10 o'clock at night. What emergency do you have? You know, like he was very confused. He was in bed. He was about to go to sleep. Like all was good. And he was going to wake up the next morning and have a normal work day. And so I texted him emergency, and he was like, what happened? And I was like, I'm stuck in Hamra, downtown Lebanon, and I need to get home, and my cousin abandoned me. And he was like, okay, I'm on my way. I was like, huh? What? And this was like we only had gone on 2 dates or something, so it was very, very fresh in the relationship. So I was like I was like gobsmacked. I was like, do you know what I mean? Like there was no word.
Yeah, definitely.
And next thing I knew, he was right at my location. He picked me up, he took me home, and that was the end of that. And I was like, okay. Like that was the flip switch. And he asked me on another date, and we saw each other again, and it eventually turned into something. And I called up my mom and I told her, Mom, I gotta cancel my ticket on October 10. She was like, what happened? You were supposed to come home. Like, oh, da, da, da. And I was like, you know, Mom, I think you're gonna have to trust me on this one. I didn't tell them. I didn't tell them about the guy. I didn't tell them what happened. I told them absolutely nothing. And normally I'm very open with my parents. I just spew it all out to them. But I was like, you just gotta trust me on this one. And that's all I said. And then after a little bit of deliberation, they did exactly that. They trusted me. They canceled my ticket. I didn't come home to Hawaii. And I stayed in Lebanon for about a year after that.
What did you do in that time?
So when the master's program fell through, I signed up for Arabic language courses, and then tried to pick up the language, try to be able to get by and have conversation. Then I eventually was able to get a job there. So I got a position as a sort of legal assistant to an international criminal attorney. So that was very interesting. And I also did a small position where it's a group that helps Lebanese youth get jobs in the difficult job market that Lebanon has. So they equip them basically with CV prep, interview prep, how to handle the first day on the job, basically, like everything that like in these 18 to 24-year-old about to get out of college, go into the career world, like pretty much equip them for that entire process, A to Z. So it was like a program like that. So I worked there for a bit as well.
Mm-hmm. I see. And so you're there for a year, and what makes you then move on from Lebanon to New York, New Jersey, or Hawaii? Where do you go after that?
Yeah. So after me and his name is Harut. let's put the emergency guy with a name. His name
Okay,
is
we have a name now.
Yeah. So after we kind of like solidified things, and we laid down our morals and aligned ourselves with like who we are as people, and our lives and everything, I went through like a family hiccup where I pretty much had to extract myself from my home, my grandparents' home, and I had to go somewhere else after a whole explosion of some sort, a family-related explosion. So after that, I had moved in with him and his family. So his mom, his dad, his older brother, and himself. And when I moved in, and at that point I had already met his family and everything, but it kind of just, multiple things like just reaffirmed notions within me that like, okay, this is a very good foundation, and this is, we're going somewhere. Like, this is not just a fling, or this is not just
whatever. Yeah.
An emotionless something, you know? And so after that situation, we were on the cusp in Lebanon of having a currency crisis. And so the value of the money in Lebanon was not equating to what you're purchasing. So there was a huge inflation, and it got to a point where it was bad. Like when my mom would wire transfer me money from my savings to myself in Lebanon, I would get the wire transfer and I'd have it in dollars. And so I noticed that, and Harut works in the bank, so obviously he kind of has more of an in than anyone else. Back in Lebanon, he worked in the bank. And so we noticed that there was some sort of instability with the currency when I would get a wire transfer, and instead of being given it in dollars, which is what was happening, they started giving it to me in Lebanese liras. And when you receive it in Lebanese liras, the conversion rate gives you less money. So I wasn't getting as much money as I was supposed to be getting because of the conversion. So when that started rolling in, we were looking at our lives and planning for the future, and we were like, is Lebanon the place for us? Is it not? Like, what should we do? We thought about it. We sat, we discussed, like, if we stay in Lebanon, his job is secure. I can secure my job better by actually, doing more of what I want, like wavering off of what I don't want and going towards what I do want, honing in on a job basically. And he had a job that provided well in the bank. And so we sat and we analyzed. We were like, okay, if we were to project our lives in Lebanon, how would it unfold? If we were to project our lives in Hawaii, how would it unfold? And we compared it, and we knew that America is obviously better than Lebanon. And so we were like, okay, that's just the harsh reality. That's the truth, that America is better than Lebanon. And so even though we both love Lebanon, so it was a very sad, harsh reality. Yeah. And so we were like, okay, well, is Hawaii an option? And to be honest, I kind of put the X on that more than him. I said, I don't want to go back to Hawaii. I'm not, like, I don't feel at home there. I don't feel comfortable there. I look different there. I love the food. I love poke. I love sushi. I love, all of that. But
Yeah.
I just don't quite fit in there. And that's sad, but true. And so I said, I don't think Hawaii is a place where we could go and bloom our lives. Like, I just don't see it, because even as an individual, I don't see myself blooming my life in Hawaii. So as a couple, as two people who is potentially trying to grow, it was
not an option.
Yeah, a wall.
Okay.
And so we analyzed, and because I lived in DC for Congress for the internship that I did, I really wanted DC. I loved it there, and I felt like it fit my vibe and fit my, like, everything that I pretty much want and can envision in my life. I saw it there. And Harut's family, he has family in Florida and here in the New York, New Jersey area. So we put those as options as well. What about Florida? What about New York, New Jersey? So we pretty much lined up all the options. We were like, Hawaii, Lebanon, New York, New Jersey, Florida, DC, and all of that. I'm very much a planner, so I had a chart and everything.
Yeah.
And so we ultimately decided that the slow pace of life was not for us. So we said no to Florida. We said fast pace is what we both want. And so it left kind of New York and DC. And then we were like, well, it's slightly difficult when you're going through an immigration process, which is
what he would have to do, right?
Yeah. So his immigration process, on top of a cultural adjustment for him, on top of being away from our families, on top of. And so after a lot of calculation, we decided that it was a good thing that he has family here in New York, New Jersey, and that having family is very important to us as values. And so we were like, okay, that's just the trump over DC for us. Like, the fact that he has family here and his family's my family's his family. So it worked really well. So in 2018, before I embarked on any of this, I opened my own website and I pretty much posted as it's called Digital Daybook, and the name was inspired with just putting my day on in a digital version and talking about my days in Armenia and Lebanon and what I've gathered. And pretty much it kind of turned away from a diary. It was a diary at first, but then it turned into food and coffee and travel and experiences and lifestyle from around the world. So I still continue that. So I post 2 times a week. And
what do you post about now that you're in Jersey?
Still lifestyle, travel, and food, but now I tie in my entire experience from the past few years and put it in this nicheless website.
What's the website one more time?
digitaldaybook.com.
digitaldaybook.com. I'll be definitely sure to link that into the description and anywhere I can, because that's something I would love people to check out.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.